law. The thinking is that if the witnesses lied on the stand one time, they might do it again. However, the lawyers who are now representing Miller and Gent say they're optimistic because of the newly discovered evidence, the identification of the body as Gail Bradshaw.
Yet time is running out, isn't it?
Time is running out. They've got about 6 months before the appeals run their course. At that point, if they're denied, the governor would then sign new death warrants and the executions would be rescheduled.
And yet, if there's any doubt, we're talking about two men's lives. Thank you, Stone. Welcome to 2020.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, from a murder case to a case of deadly weapons, it seems the tools of terrorists and fanatics aren't hard to come by because they're stolen from our military bases. Lynn Shure reports, where have all the weapons gone?
There's a great power in the universe, a power that lasts. It can operate a piece of high technology or a small child's toy. A power from an obviously superior life form. Today's Duracell. No battery lasts longer.
Winning's easy. Give 110%, expect 110%. From yourself, everyone, everything. Speed Stick deodorant gives 110%. That's its edge. Why? It has no alcohol, and alcohol evaporates. Speed Stick protection doesn't evaporate even after 24 hours. Glides on dry in just a few strokes. That's 110% protection.
Speed Stick deodorant, the wide stick.
That's your edge.
Fine men. You're about to discover one reason no other long-distance company can give you what AT&T can. You'll see something that lets us offer you a distinct advantage. What is it that helps keep us at the cutting edge? Betsy Thompson.
I'd be glad to assist you, Mr. Green.
And thousands like her who handle AT&T cards, billing questions, 800 numbers, any service you need.
I'm glad I could help.
For over 100 years, when you reached out, we were there, and you can keep it that way. AT&T, the right choice.
Can't beat the real fruit in the Jell-O freezer.
I finally found a fruit bar as smooth as can be. New Jell-O fruit bars, Jell-O fruit bars. Cool, smooth fruit from bottom to top. New Jell-O fruit bars.
100% natural.
A delicious real fruit groove.
The only one pureed. Perfectly smooth.
45 calories, 12 to a box. New Jell-O fruit bars.
It's smooth.
New things pop up in the Jell-O freezer.
It's open season on our military arsenals. Weapons are being lost, stolen, even sold for profit by enlisted men. Lynn Shure on a deadly menace. Where have all the weapons gone? When 2020 continues.
Every Friday, ABC News chooses a person of the week, someone who has affected, inspired, or touched us all. This week, ABC News will choose again, and who it is may surprise you. Friday, watch ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
This is a news brief from Channel 10 Eyewitness News.
Good evening. In the news tonight, a precedent-setting case will go to court in Vero Beach tomorrow. A mother who was a cocaine addict charged with abusing her unborn baby. We'll have details on the night beat. We'll also tell you about some incredibly low financing rates for General Motors cars. Those rates the lowest in the company's history. Also highlights from the big debate between Florida's Republican candidates for governor and a world-famous opera stars in South Florida. Join us at 11.
Jordache Basics.
So you do want to be my friend?
I don't.
Florida's next governor on Tuesday's primary.
When you and I and most of Florida voted for Ronald Reagan in 1980 over Jimmy Carter, it was the most important election to take place in this country. Just as 1986 is the most important election for Florida, please help and go vote to get a good Republican governor in Florida in 1986.
On Tuesday, Tom Gallagher, a governor, a Republican governor.
UPI says the best local newscast in America is Eyewitness News.
People who have guns at home usually keep them in a safe place. And that's why it's so hard to understand why our government seems to have been playing it loose and easy with some of the most lethal weapons in our military stockpile. Indeed, some of the most deadly weapons in the world. You'll find this hard to believe, but Lynn Shure has the proof.
You are looking at the effects of C4, plastic explosive, the tool of choice for terrorists around the world. C4 is lightweight, easily shaped, and deadly in small doses. It took less than half a pound of plastic explosive to blow the hole in the TWA jetliner that sucked 4 people, including a baby girl, out to their deaths last spring. It took considerably more plastic explosive to kill 241 Marines at their Beirut barracks in 1983. But the threat from this type of explosive is not confined to the other side of the world. It's a problem in this country now, too, where it is being stolen and sold by American servicemen on active duty. And some of the people they're selling it to are as menacing as any international terrorists. In a classified report obtained by 2020, the Army's Inspector General says the market for explosives, along with other military ammunition, includes gun dealers, drug peddlers, survivalist groups, and radicals on both the right and the left. And according to a report from the General Accounting Office, it's all part of a larger problem, the staggering theft, waste, and fraud in our $130 billion military supply system. Senator Pete Wilson of California commissioned that report.
We know on an anecdotal basis that some has been sold to organized crime, that some has been sold to organizations that might describe themselves as paramilitary. But in any case, the potential for not just mischief, but for active terrorism, for real harm, is clearly enormous.
For example, this is the neo-Nazi group known as the Covenant, the Sword, and the Arm of the Lord, based in Arkansas. In one raid, authorities uncovered a vast arsenal, including 4 pounds of C4 explosive. This cache came from Ku Klux Klan sympathizers in Montgomery, Alabama, and included 6 pounds of C4. Another neo-Nazi sect, known as the Order, whose leaders were arrested and killed in gun battles with the law, yielded large stores of munitions when broken up by the FBI. And still another group, the White Patriot Party, current name of the Ku Klux Klan in North Carolina, was recently convicted of violating a court order prohibiting them from operating a paramilitary organization. During the trial, an ex-Marine named Robert Norman Jones testified he received $50,000 from the White Patriot Party, with which he purchased stolen military munitions, including 200 pounds of C4, grenades, Claymore landmines, and anti-tank rockets. Jones, currently in jail on related charges, said he was paid to train party members to use the weapons and explosives.
Well, I would characterize the theft of C4, Claymore mines, things of that type as very serious, because in that particular case, the stolen materials went to the Ku Klux Klan here in North Carolina, and that poses a very dangerous threat to people here.
Okay, ready, fire! On line! Move out!
Glenn Miller, leader of the White Patriots, agreed to respond to the charges, but when 2020 arrived in his hometown, he declined the interview unless he was paid. Jones, seen here on his way from the trial, also testified that he bought most of the munitions from military personnel who stole them from Fort Bragg.
It's very evident to me that it is too easy to steal dangerous weapons and munitions, explosives, from Fort Bragg. It's just not that difficult to get dangerous military equipment off the base, out into society, many times into the wrong hands.
Of all places, Fort Bragg, home to such elite, highly trained fighting units as the 82nd Airborne Division and the Green Berets. Fort Bragg, which has specialized in turning out so many heroes of the American battlefield. But Fort Bragg has also become a powerful example of the Army's problems in controlling its supplies of arms and ammunition. A series of internal Army reports, special audits, and the Classified Inspector General's report all detail a situation so severe that actual loss of ammunition and explosives cannot be determined. Sergeant Byron Carlisle and Sergeant Keith Anderson, both Fort Bragg Green Berets, triggered the Inspector General's report. Both men were charged with selling large quantities of stolen munitions to undercover agents. You are about to watch one of their transactions as captured by a hidden government camera. The videotape was made in a Key West motel, where Sergeant Anderson on the right is selling grenades to an undercover agent.
This will still hold the handle down. Now the way you fire these things, take your safety pin off. Pull the pin. Okay. You can immediately throw it, and 5 seconds later, this thing's going to go off.
Before they were arrested, Anderson and Carlisle had arranged to collect some $65,000 for this inventory that included more than 60,000 rounds of small arms ammunition, 24 landmines, 30 grenades, 20 pounds of TNT, and 36 half-pound blocks of C4. The 2 Green Berets are not the only ones who were caught stealing weapons from Fort Bragg. There were 3 other such incidents here in that same summer of 1984. And an internal Army report cited 600 cases that year in which grenades, explosives, and ammunition from Fort Bragg were found at unauthorized locations. In other words, taken or stolen. The report conceded that such incidents, quote, cause widespread unfavorable publicity to the Army. And the Pentagon denied 2020 access to Fort Bragg for this report. The Army also refused to talk to us about the issue, but Sergeant Carlisle told producer Steve Singer how easy it is to remove munitions from the base. So easy, he took C4 to blow up beaver dams on his father's property.
It's not a written policy, but it's more or less accepted that you can use explosives and ammunition for your own personal use.
Do you think that it's reasonably common for soldiers based at Fort Bragg to do this?
Sure, yes it is. It's very common. It's accepted theory, it's accepted policy. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And you only have to go as far as Bragg Boulevard to sell it. Not only ammunition, but dangerous plastic explosives.
Do you know of any pawn shops in the Fort Bragg area which have C4 to sell?
Yes.
About how many?
I would say 3, 4. The same ones that you can go into the pawn shops and you can find military ammunition in plastic bags sold across the county.
In their trial, the sergeant said they believed the munitions they stole were for Contra rebels in Nicaragua and Honduras. They thought they were dealing with a CIA-connected arms merchant. Still, they were convicted and are currently appealing a 40-year sentence. But their version of a military supply system so vulnerable to theft sounds remarkably like the Army's own audits. The Inspector General's report cited poor control of ammunition, sloppy record-keeping, and inadequate inventory procedures at many Army installations. The GAO concurred.
The system is so bad, and the records are so bad, and accountability is so bad, that nobody knows how much is being lost or how much is being stolen.
One problem is soldiers often don't use all the ammunition they're given for an exercise. But the procedure for turning in the excess was found to be time-consuming, burdensome, and unnecessarily difficult.
If you've been on a range all day long at a temperature of 95 degrees, the last thing you want to do is stand in line in the ammunition supply point for anywhere from 3 to 5 hours waiting to turn the ammunition back in.
They'll give it to their buddies or they'll bury it on a range somewhere before they'll wait that time to turn it back in.
And then there's the problem of physical security. At the North Island Naval Base in San Diego, for instance, cars are checked at entry, but permitted to drive away completely unchallenged. The General Accounting Office found it surprisingly easy to get on some military bases overseas.
We made an unannounced night visit to the main supply warehouse at Hahn Air Base and found the gate closed but unlocked. We had free access to over 3/4 of the building and could have easily removed parts for F-16 aircraft and F-100 engines.
It's the same story, inadequate protection at some bases in this country, too. F-14 Tomcats are among America's most valuable, sophisticated aircraft, but their security was penetrated in a celebrated case. A sailor working aboard the USS Kitty Hawk used a Navy computer to order and steal sensitive airplane parts. He and a colleague on the ship the Belleau Wood worked with a ring of thieves in San Diego. In some cases, they got parts from warehouse shelves, put them into brown paper bags, and simply took them off the North Island base. The equipment, diverted from legitimate use repairing F-14s for America, was said to include navigational electronics and missile components that went to fix F-14s in Iran, and the thieves operated for 3 years before they were discovered. The Navy refused to discuss this case or any aspect of the supply problem with 2020. But the Air Force, in this classified report obtained by 2020, came to a similar frightening conclusion. Almost anyone with a reasonable level of computer literacy could gain access to the system, process practically any transaction, and go undetected, or if detected, remain anonymous.
We don't have a seamless leak-proof system. We've never had to build a seamless leak-through system. Now that we know that we have some commodities that are of great value, street value, dollar value to other people, we are then identifying what those are, where they should go, what additional controls we put on them. I can't fix everything overnight by snapping my finger or making a phone call from the Pentagon. These are processes that are in use all over the world, all over the Air Force, and they take time.
It's worth noting that all these disclosures about the military are coming not from the usual critics, but from insiders. The Army, Navy, and Air Force's own well-documented audits and inspections. Conservative politicians who are strong on defense, including Senator Wilson. And they're all saying the same thing, that the system doesn't work. Senator Wilson blames much of the problem on the people in charge, a situation that's been termed command apathy. When you say command, what level are you talking about?
I'm talking about all levels, from a supply sergeant right on up to the Secretary of Defense. There's always been this disparaging reference to the damned bean counters. Well, the fact is, in the military, we have been lousy at bean counting, and we can't afford to be.
It's a fact the military has finally acknowledged. In an effort to keep better track of their beans or munitions, the services have all hired civilian accounting firms. They're also upgrading their computer systems to restrict access, and they're re-emphasizing the importance of the issue to commanders.
I want to emphasize that inventory accuracy and security are among the highest priorities in DoD. We know that with a system as complex and large as ours, we will never reach perfection. However, we have committed significant resources to achieve more stringent inventory record and physical security controls, and we believe that our investments are paying off.
Keep in mind, the stolen weapons are not only wasting money and compromising this nation's readiness, they're also a threat to our physical safety, as much a threat as any terrorist activity overseas. We are not talking about Beirut. We're talking about our own backyard.
Lynn, that's just a shocking report. What happens now?
Well, Barbara, it's about to get a lot more attention. Next week, investigators from the GAO and from the Army are going to go down to Fort Bragg, and they will be followed a week later by a Senate investigating team, and already a federal grand jury has been impaneled.
Well, okay, there's all this attention, but does that mean it can be stopped, or is it too big a problem to stop it?
Military says they are working on it, but after all, while the Defense Department was testifying in those hearings that we showed, just at that time, federal agents seized more stolen military munitions from 2 more Green Berets at Fort Bragg, and just this month, they dug up 100 pounds of C4, half buried on the firing range. Lots more to be done.
Well, thank you for bringing this report to it. It's very important that we know this, isn't it?
Yes, thank you, Barbara.
2020 will continue in a moment. Please stay with us.
Presenting the adventures of Mighty Dog. Here at the hallowed halls of Schnauzer State, there's chaos at the cafeteria. The students demand pure beef. Byproducts and fillers don't make the grade. Don't worry, Dean. Mighty Dog's on the scene. Guardian of good taste, he brings Mighty Dog Beef for Dogs, the only leading brand that's beef, pure beef, and no animal byproducts. So even a college-bound hound can enjoy pure beef, thanks to that high-flying teacher's pet, Mighty Dog.
It's the biggest Shaker Knit sweater sale ever at Sears. Sweater after sweater, men's and women's, only $11.88. Now through Monday. Color after color, style after style. Kid sizes, now just $7.88. Bright ideas, Shaker Knits, perfect fits, just $11.88. Now that's a sale, but only through Monday.
There's more for your life
During our new century.
at Sears.
You wake up with those red eyes.
Wake up to Visine with tetrahydrozoline. It gets the red out of irritated eyes, so they look fabulous for hours.
Your beautiful Visine eyes.
Wake up to Visine. It gets the red out.
You're up. You can't sleep. So join the millions who've switched to Unisom. In tests, Unisom helped people fall asleep an average of 23 minutes faster than without Unisom. Take Unisom and fall asleep faster.
One quick way to put a little fun in your life is this special value Ford Ranger. It comes loaded. Special two-tone paints, special mirrors, chrome rear bumper, tinted glass, luxury interior, interval wipers, AM/FM stereo, power steering, and more. Save $972 on this special value Ford Ranger. The price is a low $75.99. That's over $2,000 less than a Toyota SR5. Now get 6.9 financing or up to $600 cash back direct from Ford, depending on model.
The world's best compete in the most important gymnastics event of the year. Heading the field for the men's all-around gold, Soviet star Yuri Korolev, double Olympic gold medalist Li Ning, and more. From the People's Republic of China, it's same-day coverage of the World Cup Gymnastics Championships. Plus super heavyweights vie for the title of the World Weightlifting Championships. All on ABC's Wide World of Sports, Saturday.
And now here's Ted Koppel with a word about tonight's Nightline. Ted?
Barbara, eyewitnesses describe it as South Africa's worst violence since the Sharpeville massacre 26 years ago. The death count is rising, violence is spreading. That's our story. Barbara?
Thank you, Ted. And a reminder, tomorrow, as he does every Friday, Peter Jennings will profile ABC's Person of the Week. You see that tomorrow on World News Tonight. And that's 2020 for tonight. We're in touch, so you be in touch. I'm Barbara Walters. On behalf of Hugh Downs and everyone here at 2020, good night.
For a printed transcript of this or any 2020 broadcast, please send $3 to 2020 Transcripts, 2 John Street, New York, New York, 10038. This has been the ABC News Magazine, 2020.
Make television a learning experience. Watch it with your children.
From the thrill of the bullfight to the magic of the Mediterranean.
You look beautiful.
Join Lorenzo Lamas, Melissa Sue Anderson, and more for an unforgettable 2-hour Love Boat Friday. Sunday.
Would you like anything to nibble on?
This case never lets up. Peter Falk heads an all-star cast in the biggest crime spoof ever as the chief detective.
Coming up on Eyewitness News, babies hooked on coke before they're born. And we'll show you a daring daybreak drug bust in Hollywood.
The Republican candidates for governor hash out the issues, and great news for anyone buying a car.
Eyewitness News is next.
Do you mind if I sit here?